These technologies, in my opinion, are just here to augment us and make it easier and faster, and so that you don't miss things or make obvious mistakes.
We're talking about this guy who took people's iPhones and was able to empty their bank accounts out just because they were either intoxicated or whatever, and they gave him the phone and the PIN, and then he could get access to the iPhone and just take all the money out.
Yeah,
I love that because I've watched a lot, and what you do great is that you teach a concept in that amount of time, and it's not too short that it doesn't make any sense. It's long enough that you actually explain something. And I mean, if someone's only got a bit of time on a train or whatever, they can watch that and take something away from that.
I watch Elementary, which is the TV show that he and Lucy Liu star in. He's Sherlock Holmes in that show, and there's this beautiful rooftop scene where he's sort of spraying his bees. And I found the rooftop.
I was speaking to a UK bank, and they said, "Oh, we have voice recognition now. You can talk into your phone and be authenticated with your voice only." And then I listened to Rachel Toback doing something. And what's your opinion? Should I enable voice authentication? It sounds like a really bad idea. So how do they track you? Well, here's a great explanation from Brilliant, who I want to thank for sponsoring this video. When you're using your phone, they can track you. So how do they locate you? Cell towers, Wi-Fi access points, and GPS. So in the course, they show you how cell towers can be used to locate you, and how using 3 cell phone towers triangulates where your device is. But they can use GPS to locate exactly where you are. And that's why it's possible with a cell phone to know where you are because of GPS. But how does it do that? Explanations are shown here, including the use of time. Your phone is getting its time from a satellite, and they can do calculations of distance and time to work out where you are, and they can use that to determine where you are using multiple satellites once again. Wi-Fi helps them to locate you as well. So if you're in range of 3 Wi-Fi signals, you must be in a region where those Wi-Fi signals overlap. Notice Wi-Fi access points don't know their location, but that location is stored in many databases, some of them freely available on the internet. At the end of the course, we're told that by using Wi-Fi, GPS, or cell phone towers, your phone can locate you almost anywhere, indoors or outdoors. If you'd rather keep that information a secret, there's always airplane mode. Now, those of you who are more privacy conscious will know that you shouldn't be using iOS or stock Android if you want privacy, because a lot of other information is sucked up by Apple or Google. What I like about Brilliant is it doesn't just tell you this, it actually shows you how triangulation works with cell phone towers, how GPS can be used to track you, and how Wi-Fi can be used to track you. Very basic stuff to be aware of if you want privacy and security. To try everything Brilliant has to offer for free for a full 30 days, visit brilliant.org/David Bombal or click on the link in the video description. You'll also get 20% off an annual premium subscription. Hey everyone, it's David Bombal back with a very special guest. Gary, welcome.
Hey David, thanks for having me.
It's great to have you on the channel. You were recommended to me by some very well-known people in the OSINT community. I interviewed Micah and Griffin, and you were on the top list of YouTube channels to look at and newsletters. But Gary, I want to talk about your channel, fantastic channel. For everyone who's watching, please go and subscribe, show the love. I love it interviewing people from, different backgrounds. Gary, before we start, you got to tell us, you did really well at school, right? And you've got a degree. Is that correct?
No, I have no degree, and I flunked my exams when I was 18. And one of those was computers, and now I do computers professionally. So
you got an E, was it for computers or something?
Yeah, E at A level, which is like the exam you do when you're sort of 18 years of age and you're about to go into university. I really didn't know what I wanted to be or do at university. And back in, 2003, there wasn't, CTI and all these ethical hacking type things going around. So I just felt a bit lost, really. And I think that meant I didn't have motivation to really do well in these exams.
I love that. So you didn't do well at school. It's a motivation for everyone who thinks they messed up. I could use much stronger language than that, but let's say you've messed up in life or you think you have. I love stories like yours and other people where that didn't stop you, right?
Yeah. I mean, I joined the military. There's a lot of discipline in the military. You're always learning new skills and things in the military. So you're learning to adapt and really building that into your sort of, part of your daily life, constantly adapting to new situations. So in civilian life, I still, live by that. I'm always learning new things. YouTube is a new thing, right? You know how much work it takes to run a channel, and cyber is certainly in that space. You will always be learning new things in cybersecurity.
And Gary, you've got a very interesting background. I have in my notes here, British military intelligence. So you've got to tell us a story, where you came from and what you do these days. I've interviewed a lot of people in the US military, but it's great to have someone from Britain. So tell us a bit of your story, and then I want to talk about your channel and the stuff that you do there that can help people in their careers.
Sure. Thanks, David. So I'm Northern Irish. You might be able to tell from my odd accent. I've lost a little bit of it, but not too much. Grew up in
You're in Scotland, right?
I am in Scotland. I'm in just outside Edinburgh, and it's very windy and very wet here at the minute because we've got the storm. But that's the same everywhere, I think, in the UK at the minute. And my background, I didn't do very well at my education in school. I think I got an E at A level in computers, which is like, if people don't know, that's like the exam at 18 years of age. You sort of pick 3 different things. I had biology, computers, and technology or something like that. Didn't go to university, wasn't really sure about what to do. And remember, this is, 2003. Cyber wasn't, didn't exist practically, certainly not in Northern Ireland to my knowledge. And it wasn't really on my radar back then. So I joined the military, started off in the Royal Navy as a communications specialist. And that's not, I did a Windows Server Administrator course, which was old school. Most of the technology we used was, analog type stuff. So like little pieces of tape with holes in it. That's the crypto keys, and you pull it through a little light reader, and it's all, antennas and radio frequencies, not really computers. But it was good fun, sailed around the world, saw lots of nice things. Then, left that behind and got into British.
How old were you? Sorry to interrupt.
I was 18 until 22, I think it was, roughly.
Okay. Sorry to interrupt. Go on.
Yeah, no worries. And then after that, got into British military intelligence as part of the army. And, that was a lot more intense than the Navy, because I was, down in the front lines with the Marines and some of the army units in Afghanistan. So very hot and very cold, trying to do intelligence work to the best of your ability in, crazy conditions, to say the least.
Yeah.
And then after that, I sort of left it behind. My heart really wasn't in it anymore. I didn't see like a long-term future in terms of family and things. So I popped smoke, as they say, and called in the helo, and out I got.
So Gary, how long were you in the military for?
8 years.
And then I've seen a bit on your channel and a bit of what you've explained. You moved into, you got into civilian life and you decided to do cyber. Is that correct?
Yeah, kind of, in a roundabout way. So after the military, I got into kidnap and ransom, not kidnapping people and ransoming them, but
going to say,
working out of an operations room in Henley-on-Thames, and we had this great view of the river. We could literally watch people row in the rowing races. It was really cool, but it was like
nice.
It was an ops room for kidnap and ransom cases happening globally. So part of an insurance company, and that was with a bunch of ex-military people. So it was like in civilian life, but with loads of my old colleagues. So it was a nice sort of decompression. But it was, 12-hour shifts and an hour and a half drive each way from my home to the office. So it was a slog, and it just wouldn't last. So I eventually found a role in Nationwide, which is, the building society in the UK, which is like a bank for, folks in America that might not know that term. And I did a risk role there. So I was a risk analyst in the enterprise risk division, learned loads of really, really useful skills that I still use to this day. To be honest, my risk skills are probably some of my most useful skills, even in cyberspace. And yeah, so that was my first sort of proper corporate style job. But again, still not doing cyber. And when I was there, I realized, oh yeah, that cyber thing that I was interested in when I was a kid, Hackers, the movie, and all that sort of stuff. Mr. Robot came out and someone recommended I watch it. And then I was like, oh yeah. And I was into that. But back when I was into it, there was no YouTube. You couldn't find this stuff, right? As we're now, we have this, and it's incredible. So yeah, then I started sort of Googling around and figured out a path into cyber and made it happen.
A lot of people who watch these videos perhaps have a military background, perhaps in the US or the UK or other countries. What's your advice for someone transitioning from military to civilian life? I can't speak to this at all, so it's great to get you to give your advice.
I think it's tough. It is tough, and there's people in the military who have very civilian style roles, and there's people in the military who have the complete opposite of a civilian style role. Think anything from special forces all the way back to being a chef. You know, it's a wide range of people, and it really depends where you are in that sphere in your experiences. Certain roles make it easier to get into the civilian world. And other roles, I guess, it's quite tricky and quite challenging to break out and get into the civilian world. But I think, as a general rule of thumb, I would try not to bind your identity too much to the job. And I know in the UK military, and I've worked with a lot of people around the world, you know, and in the US, you get that sort of hoo-ha camaraderie type
Yeah.
thing, and that's great. But it has to come to an end at some point if you really want to settle into those normal sort of civilian type roles. And for me, that came sort of natural. I've always been into photography and websites and sort of soft skills like that. You know, I wasn't a sort of beer glugging, you know, typical soldier that you would imagine. You know, soldiers on a night out, for example. That wasn't my sort of scene. So maybe I was a bit different in that case. But I knew a lot of people like me, to be honest, that were like that. And most of the people that I know have all done really well post the military. So, you know, I think it really depends what you're doing. You know, if you're frontline special forces in Helmand province, that's going to be tough to shift. But, you know, if you're doing something a little bit softer potentially, then maybe it's a more natural transition.
You say that, Gary, but, you know, this famous book, Discipline Equals Freedom, Jacko has written a whole bunch of books and he leverages a lot of his military skills. So surely there's stuff in the military that's really helped you. I mean, you were in intelligence, right? So has that helped you a lot into, you know, what in your civilian life?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, the intel world is a really interesting space. I mean, don't get me wrong, a lot of it is boring type, you know, day-to-day work. It's like being a rock star. It's, you know, playing on stage to the fans is 5% of your day. The other 95% of your day isn't being a rock star. And it's, you know, similar in any of these types of things, from intel, special forces, whatever it is. But, you know, the skills that I learned in military intelligence, I use directly in my day-to-day and, you know, cyber threat intelligence. It's the same thing. It's just, instead of bullets being a threat to you, it's, you know, packets being a threat to you. So the architecture of it all is identical.
The way I look at it is, you know, everyone's different. You and I are very, very different, have very different backgrounds, but play to your strengths, right? I mean, it sounds like exactly what you've done.
Yeah, and that's kind of diversity in itself, isn't it? You know, you come from this walk of life, I come from this walk of life, but we play to our strengths. We sort of own where we come from and we move forward with that. And, you know, together it makes a more interested and more diverse team, which I think is better.
How did you was there any like certifications or anything that really helped you? I know you've got your OSCP, so I wanted to talk about when you got that and talk about, you know, what helped you get that. But, you know, it's one thing to say, okay, I'm going to go into the civilian world, but I'm going to jump into this field, cyber. What helped you? And I want to position it this way. If I was doing what you did today, what would your advice be? Or if you were talking to your younger self, what would your advice be?
So my path, I sort of had to figure it out on my own a little bit. I did speak to a few people at Nationwide where I worked at the time when I started doing the certs. And, you know, they pointed out things like OSCP because I'd never heard of that before. And I kind of, you know, looked on LinkedIn and reverse engineered some of their profiles and saw some of the key certs and, you know, just learn the names of these vendors and try and sort of absorb as much as you can. In the military, you call that IPE, Intelligence Preparation of the Environment, where you don't know anything. And now you have to know everything. And so you just sort of suck in all the data points and just learn as much as you can about that world. And I kind of still apply that to everything, really, even YouTube. But, you know, it's the same sort of ethos. No matter what I look into, I still do that sort of IPE work. And, you know, I found CompTIA, the Security Plus certification. And I knew that A Plus and Network Plus kind of came before that. But because of the stuff that I'd done in the military, especially towards the end of my Army career, I was working in a special little intelligence center, and we had servers and VLANs, and I got pretty close to this civilian contractor who taught me a lot about how to run all that stuff. So, you know, that started to come very naturally to me, especially with my web development background and, tinkering with cryptography in the Navy. So I felt very comfortable with, A plus and Network plus. I still read the books, just a knowledge check to make sure, do I actually understand how the internet works? Because, I think that's one of the first things people should learn, how does all this work? I know John Hammond talked about you should learn a programming language. And yeah, for some people, yes, go do the thing that interests you. If you're interested in that, go do it. Because if it's fun, you'll stick at it. For me, I had a rough idea how it worked. And I knew I was never going to be a strong programmer. I can script a little bit and I can, use Chat GPT to help me along, but I'm not a gifted Pythonista. So yeah, I went and I got that CompTIA Security Plus pass first time. That was pretty exciting to, pass this exam, this simple exam, but still challenging for a new person. And that gave me a little boost, and set me on the path. And then after Security Plus, I knew about OSCP at that stage, but I looked at the exam and thought, I can't do a 48-hour exam, 24 hours of hacking, and then 24 hours of like writing a report. That's like, special forces hacking exam kind of thing. So I sort of Googled around a bit, found some blogs and things, and heard about EJPT, which is an eLearn Security. I think they're owned by INE these days. Yeah. And it was really cool. I was actually in this very room whenever I passed the exam. I think it was like, 2 a.m, and my wife was asleep next door. And I finished the exam. It said you've passed. And I did a little quiet in the air. I was dead chuffed because it's a practical, you actually have to hack. You can't, it's not a multiple choice. We won't name names, but it's not a multiple choice hacking exam. You have to get in. And I think the exam back then was like some sort of record label, like a Sony kind of copy, and you have to answer like a quiz, what is the date of birth of such and such person, like an artist in the database. So you got to do, SQL injection, bypass authentication, read the databases, all that sort of stuff. But it was a challenge, these are a lot of new skills to learn. And I didn't really understand, from the outset, a lot of the fundamentals. And it wasn't really until I started going for the OSCP and I got on Hack the Box and found IppSec, where it all sort of came together for me. That really changed my whole mindset and approach to, the pen testing side of things for sure.
You mentioned IppSec in some of your videos. So you got a whole video where you talk about Hack the Box and more of this. So for anyone who wants more detail, go again and subscribe to Gary's channel. But like just for the broader audience, who is IppSec and what is Hack the Box and how did it help you with OSCP?
Yeah, so I guess I'll talk about that the other way. So I started doing OSCP and I, got onto the course, got into the labs, and I was like, how do I play with these labs? I really just didn't know where to go. I was still at that hand-holding stage. I knew how to do an Nmap scan and, how to do SQL injection and, a little bit of web app pen testing, but I still didn't know how to, sweep a network range and get the results and then, do all that sort of stuff. So I still needed my hand held. And I really struggled to like get the grasp of the labs. I don't even think I did that many. I think they recommend you do like half of the network before you're like ready for OSCP. I played with a few of them and I finished the lab report, which gives you a few bonus points for the exam. And then I was like, I can't get my head around this. So I was happy with the lab report. I'd done all the training that was in the PDF that they used to give you back then. And then I just went to Hack the Box because it just felt like a faster, easier learning experience. I could watch someone teach me directly how to hack that machine. You don't get that on OSCP. Yeah. You have to go off and do your own research, and that's fine, right? There need to be these different companies in the market pushing the boundaries of what's possible. The try harder mantra. Each to their own. I do still recommend it. It's a great exam and it's a great challenge more than anything. It's a good one just for up here for your confidence levels. But Hack the Box was fantastic. I have great things to say about Hack the Box. The platform's lovely. They keep building on it all the time, new things all the time. And IppSec works there now, I believe, but he used to not work there. He just made some YouTube videos and he's got a huge channel and a really useful website called IppSec.rocks, which is like a search engine for the the chapters in his videos. So if you're looking to do like SQL injection, you go to his website, type that in, and it'll list all the videos where he does that. And if you click, it takes you right to that moment, which is incredibly useful for anyone trying to, do a real engagement and you're stuck somewhere. You might be able to find the answer just on a YouTube video. But he has a great channel, a great voice. It's iconic at this stage, and the things that he teaches people, his methodology, his approach, I really copied that. So he used tmux, I use tmux. He uses certain keys, I use the same keys, and I largely just cloned myself off of him because he was infinitely better than I am, and still is, obviously. And it worked because I sat the OSCP and passed first time. So, I do credit that
Congrats.
to IppSec. And I dropped him a message, I think it was on a Discord channel or something, and said thanks. So, that was quite nice to be able to say thank you to him.
How long did it take you from, Security Plus to getting your OSCP?
Good question. I believe Security Plus would have been 2015. And I think my OSCP, I did in Singapore, where young Rami is here. And that was 2019, I'm pretty sure. So a 4-year...
I think it was when I looked at the notes, yeah.
Yeah, 4-year time period.
And that was working on that all the time? Or was it like a little bit in the beginning and then towards the end you got serious?
So I started off in earnest and, smashing the labs, trying to use up the 90-day lab time or whatever it was I had as part of the OSC package because I didn't want to waste it. But, it got to, halfway through that time period and I was just struggling to really like engage with the labs and feel like, I'm getting the hang of this. I felt a bit lost, and the forums, it was challenging. I just struggled a bit to really find my feet. And then I switched to Hack the Box, and I spent maybe 6 months on Hack the Box practically every day at nighttime instead of, watching Netflix and playing PlayStation or whatever. It was Hack the Box instead. And I didn't have kids then, so I could stay up to, 2 a.m. doing this stuff and then sneak into bed. And it was fine. So I'm a little bit older now and I've got 2 kids. So I don't have that luxury anymore, David.
Welcome to the club.
Yeah.
Wait till you get to my age. So that's great. I mean, it's so like, if someone was starting now, what would be a realistic expectation? Let's say I don't know much. I'm going to go A+, Network Plus, perhaps. I mean, do you recommend this path is the question. A+, Network Plus, Security Plus. Perhaps then, I think you mentioned on one of your YouTube videos, do like I wouldn't say a lower cert, but like a more beginner cert, right? And you did eJPT there. And then go OSCP. Do you still recommend that path, or do you have any updates for 2024?
Yeah, I do think it's still a good path. But, when people come to me, which happens quite a lot these days on LinkedIn, asking for path advice like that, the first question I say to them is, where do you want to be? Because, I find it quite cool / useful that I understand, I'm an OSCP, I'm not an OSEE or whatever the top tier one is. I'm not some sort of, unbelievable hacker, right? I understand the basics pretty well, and I can get my head around some of the more advanced stuff. And that's really useful in my role doing CTI because not many CTI people have that experience. So
what is CTI? Sorry, just for everyone.
Cyber threat intelligence. So not many CTI folk have the OSCP or that practical sort of hands-on ethical hacking experience. More and more are, I think, as time comes on. But the people that I've spoken to, it tends to not be their experience. So it's useful to have that in my role because it can let me sort of push things a little bit further than I normally would be able to with just my Intel background. But, if you want to get into pen testing, I think it's still a very feasible route into the industry. But there's loads of other certs now. You got OSCP, but Hack the Box have one, CPTS, I think, Certified Penetration Testing Student. It's like a week long. It's meant to be really quite challenging as well. And I would imagine it's great. The labs that they have and stuff are really, really good. You got TCM Security with their PNPT. Everybody loves that, great community over there. There's ECPPTX from eLearn Security. So there's a lot of certs in that space. And you might have seen the video I did on the Paul Jeremy, the big multicolored web page with all the certs listed on it. But people really need to think about where you actually want to end up, because potentially there's no point doing the OSCP if you want to get into CTI. it'll be handy, it'll look good, you'll feel good about it, but there are easier ways into CTI and other roles as well.
I think you hit a really important point there, because there is no one road, right? It depends. Start with the end in mind and decide where you want to go. I mean, the video, and I'll link it below, you showed that like chart of all these crazy amount of certs, right? What was the video? Like 400 and something certs or something crazy?
Yeah, I think 473 or something. Yeah, it is a really good. If you know what you want, it's a fantastic website. But if you don't know what you want, if you'd have showed that to me back whenever I was starting, I'd have been lost. So I think it takes someone to help you navigate it and ask the right questions. And I think,
and that's why we're having this conversation. Sorry, go on.
Yeah. When I meet with people, I usually say find two things that you're interested in case one of them, when you go down that path, actually you're not interested in it. And a good example is, you're interested in SOC and CTI, and those actually go really well together, because a lot of the analysis work that the SOC will do, if you just write that up into a report, that is almost a CTI product, a cyber threat intel product. So they're closely related, equally pen testing, red teaming, whatever you want to call it, and SOC, because one's attack, one's defend, and those will complement each other really, really well. What you learn on one side will help you on the other side, even if you switch over. So, if you're picking something like pen testing and GRC, governance, risk, and compliance, those are very separate. A lot of the skills won't map across. Some people might argue, Jerry Alger might jump in the comments and give us a good clip around the ear, but you know what I mean? Like, they're closer together. The red team, blue team stuff. So try and find two roles that are somewhat interlinked and explore both paths. But there's a ton of content. Chat GPT is incredible at giving this advice. And if you prompt it well enough, it can really give you some really interesting cert combinations.
Gary, I don't want to open the floodgates, but you said people are reaching out to you on LinkedIn. Is it okay if people do reach out to you and ask for advice, perhaps on LinkedIn and other places? Perhaps you can give us your socials.
Yeah, sure. It's Gary Ruddell on LinkedIn, and the YouTube channel is Gary Ruddell Official. I do have a website as well, but the best thing to do is just reach out on LinkedIn, and when you connect, just drop a message that say saw you on David's show, and then I'll know that that's where you're coming from, and that's why you're reaching out. Don't just send blind connection requests, because they just get denied. It's too much. It's crazy sometimes on LinkedIn, but more than happy to try and help as many people as possible.
And I think the best advice is they should subscribe to your channel, because if they ask you those questions in the comments, you're going to see that, and then you can create a video that addresses a lot of the questions, right? I think that works really well.
Yeah, exactly. And I do my best to reply to every comment. I'm having a conversation with a guy today in the comments, so I'm still small, and I'm able to reply to a lot of the comments. So I will do at my best effort.
Wait till you get 1 million subs, and then we'll talk.
I can't even imagine.
You're going to get it soon, man. Oh. So just for everyone watching, please go sub. I love showcasing different people's YouTube channels, because there's so much content out there from amazing people like Gary. So please go and show the love and subscribe. And let's talk about your channel now, because you've got an interesting take. And I was thinking about titling this video, which might be this title or not, 3-minute hacking classes. You got to tell us about 3-minute. Is it 3-minute Thursday?
3-minute Thursday, yeah. So 3-minute Thursday. If you go to the 3-minute Thursday playlist and go back to the first video, you'll see I think it's my CTI OS, a little Notion workspace that I made for people to get the sort of basics of how to do like CTI in practice. And in that video, I explain the start of the 3-minute Thursday series. And it's stolen from Peter McKinnon, who's a huge YouTuber. I think he's...
I was going to say 2-minute Tuesday, because when I saw that, I thought, you've been watching Peter McKinnon.
Exactly.
Sorry, go on.
But, Peter says, like being able to sit down every week and, sort of forcing yourself to get in that cadence and create the buffer of content. So if you do get sick, I've been sick all of December, all of January. It's been crazy with, 2 young kids in winter. But you learn the ropes better. You get into better rhythm and cadence on YouTube. I'm sure your content is, well tuned up at this stage. And
if only, yeah, go on.
It just makes it a lot more professional, which allows you to make better content. So 2-Minute Tuesdays, Peter always went over that. Some of his videos were like 15 minutes long, which was great because he's a lovely guy. But I thought, how do we make it like 4-Minute Fridays, 3-Minute Thursdays? I figured 3 was good because people like things in threes, you know? So I figured let's do 3-Minute Thursdays. And yeah, the whole idea is just to sit down every week and put out a video that just shows something, teaches something, helps people figure something out. That's it.
I love that because I've watched a lot, and what you do great is that you teach a concept in that amount of time, and it's not too short that it doesn't make any sense. It's long enough that you actually explain something. And I mean, if someone's only got a bit of time on a train or whatever, or the tube in London or wherever, they can watch that and take something away from that.
Yeah, because 3 minutes is sort of the right amount of time, isn't it? You have to be able to explain it really simply. And a lot of these things that we're talking about they're not naturally simple. You know, some of them are quite complex, but trying to make them short, simple, and fun so they're not just dry. You know, one of the things that I don't like about the channel is that it's just me here in the office. But at the same time, that is a blessing because it is just me here in the office. I can go on lunch and do 3 videos, record 3-minute Thursdays, and that's like a month's worth of content pretty much done on lunch. If I was a Peter McKinnon type guy and I was going to video me doing a photo shoot, I'd have to go outside and maybe it's raining and then you can't. So there's pros and cons, I guess, to being stuck in this office. So I just have to try and put the effort in to make it work. And I guess one of the more fun ones recently for me personally, because I've done a few of these now, I was sick and I had to record because I'd gone on holidays and then I'd run out of my buffer. I didn't have anything prepared. So I was bunged up with a cold, and it meant I could start the video in the kitchen, like filling the kettle, boiling it, making a cup of tea, sitting down here, and you can see like fake rain as it pours down the screen. That was quite nice because it just gave me an excuse to bring more of me to the channel, which is better, I think.
That's great. I mean, I was going to talk about that as well because I'm not sure if it's because of your background in photography or if it's because you've been looking at like people like Peter McKinnon, but you don't just do cyber, you do a lot of like, you bring a lot of the creativity side to it. Like you do your camera angles well, you do a bunch of like storytelling. So tell us about that. Is it natural or is this something you've had to like pick up and learn?
There's a bit of reverse engineering, to be honest, going on here. And if you take Peter McKinnon's name and write that down and go check out his channel, go watch his early 3-Minute Thursday stuff. There's not many of them around, but he does have a playlist. But if you go back to my very first YouTube video, and I don't know if you've seen those, but the first 4 or 5 YouTube videos, I went quite ambitious at the start, and I was emulating Johnny Harris, who's a former Vox journalist, and he's got every single video, David, is just millions of views, and the quality is unreal. But you know, he's got a name, and he started off with a bang, and he's very good. But that was sort of my inspiration. I sort of thought, wouldn't it be cool to make like cybersecurity videos like this? Because Johnny isn't doing cyber, but it would force me to learn how to like play with maps and learn Final Cut Pro and animations and sound and all these things that I like to watch. Why can't I just do it, you know? And I had, a child at the time, the first one that came along, and I knew like, I'm not going anywhere anytime soon, right? I'm here. I can commit to doing this. So I spent a month making that first video, and a month making the second video, and a month making the third video. And if any of you go back and watch like the Iraq one, there's how a data breach destroyed an Air Force video. I think it's my second or third video. The intro to that looks quite Johnny Harris-y. Loads of maps and B-roll footage from, the first Iraq war. And sound design and stuff. That in itself took me like a week to put that 5-second clip together. But I know how to do it now. I know how it works. So I'd be much quicker if I ever go back to it. And I would love to go back to it. I'd love if this channel just became like the cyber version of Johnny Harris's channel, because it's just beautiful. Like, it's beautiful work. If you're not subscribed to Johnny's channel, go check it out. It's incredible.
So what's the vision? You want to become a YouTuber full time and then like take boring cyber content and like put this like cool style on it, or where do you see things going?
That's a really tough question. That's something me and my wife talk about regularly because, you start getting traction on YouTube and
Yeah.
you can see that there is a future in it. You're a full-time YouTuber and hats off
Yeah.
to you. That's incredible. Well done.
Thanks.
Because it's a lot of work. People think, it's just hit record, and that
Yep.
is not the case. My day job is I'm a cyber person, and I wasn't. So I had to learn cyber, and now I have to learn video. I'm a photo guy, but that's not much of a stretch. But now I have to learn audio, which I'm still learning. There's a big light here, and now you're doing Final Cut Pro and graphic design and thumbnails and social media marketing. YouTubers that do it, even as poorly as I do it, hats off to any of them, because it is a lot of work to make it slick. And I think I've got it to the stage now where it's in a really good rhythm. We've got content planned out for the future, and we're in a really nice place. My wife helps out with a lot of the back end stuff. Obviously, she's juggling kids at the same time. But I could see a career in it. I don't know if I want to do it full time. If I could, I guess I would. At the minute, I definitely couldn't. But maybe one day, watch this space. And yeah, if I could make cyber content really interesting and maybe tell more of the stories, less tutorials, more of that original stuff that I made, I think I would quite like that. But I think to do that at scale, I would need a team or some people to outsource stuff to. David, maybe you can hook me up with some people.
Yeah, it's a journey, right? And I think that I understand the pain because I was there at one point. It's like, what did you say earlier? I think that's exactly the right stance, is where do you want to go?
Yeah.
And then decide where you want to go and then aim for that. And I think what I really like about your style, and I think it's a lesson for everyone, get inspiration from people. Like you got inspiration from Peter McKinnon, you got inspiration from other people, but you've made it your own. Because when I watched your stuff, I said, oh, I can see Peter McKinnon here. As soon as you said 3-minute Thursdays, I thought, oh, you definitely got this from Peter McKinnon. And some of the style stuff, but Peter's in photography and other stuff, and you're in a different niche now. And I mean, I think over time you're doing it already. You're getting your own style, right? You're getting your own voice. So get inspired by other people, but then make it your own.
Yeah, that's it. And, I've got some things coming up where I'm going to have to vlog. I'm going to have to be on a plane or a train going down to London to do some talks and things. So, you'll get to see like a vlog episode where you get to travel with me a bit. And I'd like that because, it's a bit more interesting, I think, for me as well as the viewers to just get out of this room, and away from, sharing my screen and doing the same sort of, formula over and over again. And, 3-minute Thursday might officially last for a year. I might do 52 of them and then say, look, let's take a little break and just do some more juicy stuff. But who knows where we'll be in, 6 months, whatever it is. The world could look totally different.
I mean, that's great. I think it's a journey, and you just change. There's the worst thing you can do is stagnate.
Yeah.
You were talking to me offline about some of my older videos, and they're horrendous. I mean, please don't go watch my old videos. They're terrible. But, it's a journey. And the thing is just try and improve a little bit every day. Every day, just try and get better. And it's amazing what you can do just by a little bit of improvement. Sorry, you wanted to say something.
Yeah. So I went and watched my crypto AG scandal video, which was, I think, it's either my second or third video. And basically, crypto AG was a Swiss company based out of Zug in Switzerland, and it was owned by the CIA and the German intelligence, and they sold crypto gear all over the world back in the day, back in the Cold War, that just didn't work. So the Americans and the Germans could read it. So when I know you use Proton, I use Proton VPN. I've got a video coming out about VPNs fundamentally, but it terrifies me, that sort of stuff. But when I watched that video, I was just like, oh my goodness. the camera work, because it was just shot on my iPhone, right? Like literally iPhone 12 Pro with a lapel mic. But I'm not going to take it down because it's just evidence that if you stick at it, eventually you get comfortable in front of the camera and you find your flow. If I deleted it out of, shame or pride or whatever it was called, I think I'd be doing a disservice to other people who are professionals that want to, productize their knowledge and share it with people. I think it's important to show those early bits of work.
It's like everything, like you said, with cyber. In the beginning, you couldn't hack a box, but now you can. It's just a journey.
Totally. And most of us can learn pretty much anything over a long enough time period. It's all possible if you just commit to it and enjoy it.
Gary, the top videos on your channel, right? I looked at it today. Most popular video is using OSINT to find his apartment and then solving a real world investigation using OSINT. So let's start with the apartment one because that's your top video. And then I want to do the real world one. You don't just do like OSCP pen testing type stuff, CTI stuff. You seem to have a big, role in OSINT as well.
Yeah, I mean, my background is intelligence work, and my current role, my day-to-day is intelligence work. The pen testing stuff, when I started doing those videos, I thought, this will look good. This will look interesting. People will be interested in this, because I just wasn't sure that people were going to be interested in this is the intelligence cycle, or this is how, TLP works, all the Intel stuff. And, those videos are on my channel if you don't know what those are. I just thought it'd be more interesting for people to see, like, this is a reverse shell and this is how Nmap works. So that's why I started in that sort of pen testy space. And it helped me sort of pass on the knowledge of, Hack the Box and OSCP that I'd worked so hard to get. And I thought, I need to pass this on in my own little way. But, I think the Intel piece is a rarer piece to find on YouTube. If you go and look for CTI content or Intel content, there's a massive gap between that and the amount of hacking content there is. In fact, if you type, the hashtags at the top of the description that you can put in on the YouTube video, if you do hashtag OSINT, I think it's like 5,000 videos. But if you do hashtag hacker, it's like 1.2 million. So
exactly, yeah.
In my mind, I need to go and make, 1 million OSINT videos and just dominate that market, right? But that's not what will happen. But as I start to make more videos, other Intel people will undoubtedly make more videos as well. And we can grow this thing, as we see it, as we see fit. I think because I do CTI, do the Intel work on a day-to-day basis, it makes sense to just sort of stay in that lane. I'll probably not do much pen testy type stuff anymore. Maybe just the odd little bit where it makes sense to, because there's so much stuff to be made in the Intel space. And especially if you branch it out and sort of go into another part of Intel, which is what we talked about offline, things like competitive intelligence. So how companies do market intelligence and sort of what people would imagine corporate espionage is, but it's not as glossy as that. It's
you should make videos like that, yeah, for
sure.
Yeah,
exactly. So that's a sort of pivot that I might take, show the CTI stuff, but step back, show the Intel piece that underpins the CTI work, which I've done some of already, and then start building out competitive intelligence and things like that.
But give us the 3-minute Thursday of that apartment video. Give us the quick overview so people can know what it's about, and then the real world OSINT case. I really enjoyed that one with the real world one. Both were really good. But give us the quick synopsis of both.
Okay, so the one where I find Johnny Lee Miller's apartment. I'm so sorry, Johnny. I watched all of Elementary. Big fan of hackers. I love you to bits. Sorry, but you did put it on Instagram, and it came because I watch Elementary, which is the TV show that he and Lucy Liu star in. He's Sherlock Holmes in that show, and there's this beautiful rooftop scene where he's sort of spraying his bees, and I found the rooftop just on Apple Maps or Google Maps or whatever it was, and I thought, wouldn't it be cool if we could just find his actual apartment? And so we started Googling around, and I saw the photographs of Angelina Jolie entering the apartment, who he was in the movie Hackers with. So there was a little bit of, history there for me. But it was a really interesting photograph that the paparazzi had taken of her with her mask on, during COVID, going into this gold door. And the article said it was a Dumbo apartment. And I didn't know what that was, but turns out it's a district in New York. So one thing led to another, and I teach a few skills that are useful, things like looking in reflections of glass to see things that are, in the background and trying to correlate that. So that's where that video came about from. And people in the comments have gone even further, like they've said exactly which apartment it is. Like it is this floor. I only took it so far. But that's the scary thing with, social media. He posted a photograph of his cat on his windowsill, beautiful little cat, looking out of his view. But you got these skyscrapers, and if you just do the angles, you can just, where he lives then. So it's a funny one. I do wonder if I'm going to hear from a lawyer in the future, but at the same time, it's like it is open.
Public knowledge, man.
It's public, right? It's in the public. So yeah.
Yeah, whenever I talk to guys like you and like Micah and Griffin and other people who do OSINT, it's like, man, you have to be careful what you post out there because it's amazing what you guys can do. So you got to tell us about the other video because I thought that was insane. Just tell us a story because it was like someone contacted you, right? And that was, I thought it was brilliant how you did that.
Yeah, so a lot of people contact me these days. A lot of people on Instagram with no followers, no profile picture, saying, "Hey, can you help me?" Yeah. I was dealing with one today actually, and it's just no. Come through your company, right? If you have a company, reach out, and we'll have a chat, and maybe I'll be able to just point you in the direction of the answer. But if you're just some random dude, that's a crazy thing to ask someone to do.
No, exactly.
And no, I can't hack into, your partner's Facebook account because that would be hacking Facebook and that would be terrible for my life. So
exactly.
No. But yes, so an investigator that I know reached out. They had a screenshot, which was the best frame from an Instagram video, pretty low quality video as well. But
it's terrible, yeah.
Yeah. Maybe an old iPhone or something, and it showed the inside of a bar. But I looked closely, and it was a shisha bar, a hookah cafe, where the Middle Eastern sort of style with the big plumes of smoke. You could see one of those in front, and there was a TV screen, and it was dark outside, and there were sort of multicolored lines going up the walls, like neon strips. And the only thing I knew, and to be honest, if I didn't have this little nugget of information, I probably wouldn't have been able to have found it that easily. But the client, the person who was requesting the investigator to find it, they were based in Leeds. So we didn't know anything about where the picture was actually taken, but we knew that the client's postcode was a Leeds postcode, which is a city in England. So I kind of made the assumption maybe this is in Leeds, maybe this is someone that they know in that area. So, circled Leeds on Google Maps and then got to work. And within 45 minutes, I'd found it. But if I didn't have the Leeds lead, I would have struggled. It's not always that easy to find some of these things, especially if you've got low res, photography. But there was a really cool thing in that video with the sign that's tilted.
I was going to say
out the window. That was
great.
A nice little nugget just to confirm it. But again, we went on the Instagram channel of that business and confirmed that it definitely is inside that room at a very specific table. So that was useful.
I mean, it's nuts because you were changing the colors and all kinds of things and you were looking through the windows, reflections. I think you were reflecting off the TV or something. I can't remember exactly, but it was insane what you were doing.
Yeah, there's when you do imagery analysis, which I never did that. There is a field within military intelligence where you do IMINT, and you get those stereoscopic goggles and you look at all the sort of pictures of Russian troops and things, and you learn the real skills. I've got very basic imagery analysis skills, but I've got Photoshop skills, and I know about trying to boost the shadows to reveal details and things like that. So yeah, I play around with the sliders to lift the shadows up, and you can do it on an iPhone these days, but identifying key things in pictures and trying to figure out what they are and think very logically about what that might be it's a real skill, breaking down an image, foreground, middle ground, background, and really looking at it, objectively. I'm not going down the rabbit hole, getting lost looking at one thing. Cover the surface and then just peek down each of the rabbit holes and see if you find a thread. And if you do, maybe then pull on it. Those would be my tips for anybody trying to do something similar.
Now, if I look at the next 3 videos, top performing videos on your channel, you've got like find social media profiles fast, and then you've got Maltego. So tell us about those. I mean, for everyone who's watching, go and look at the videos if you actually want to see how Gary does it. This is just like a teaser, like just telling you, don't put your photos out there. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, so the finding social media profiles, one, I think that's me showing off the Sherlock tool, which,
Yep.
you know, is freely available. You just put in usernames and it goes and finds them. I think I found like my old bodybuilding.com
I was going to say your bodybuilding
account, you
photo
know.
was the best, man.
So yeah, that was funny finding that one. That was genuine, like shock. That wasn't like me, you know, take two. That was genuine in the video. But yeah, it's super powerful. Like, you know, when you're trying to find people online, you know, my kids, they're 3 and 1. When they're 20, I dread to think what the world's going to be like, you know, especially with the advent of AI coming into play. And, you know, tools like Maltego have been around for a long time. Once they get AI in them, well, then it's just going to go nuts, right? That's just going to make it so much easier and faster to really like correlate all this data and just very quickly say, this is Gary, this is where he lives, this is his wife, this is his car. Like that'll all just come so much quicker when people start putting AI into these products.
So I always like to joke that I'm a boomer, even though I'm not, but it's like all the kids call me a boomer on YouTube and other places. So as someone who's not as old as I am, I saw you had Chat GPT and a mouse, and you said something along the lines, let me check my notes. You said you find Chat GPT better than Google, right? Is that true? It's fair to say? And like, tell us how you use Chat GPT.
I treat it as like a trusted advisor.
Now I ask you to trust in your master as I have come to trust in mine.
And I know it isn't always right, but it really depends what types of questions you're asking it. You know, the questions that I ask it, the answer it gives me is usually right. You know, things like, how do you build a cyber threat intelligence program? Or what is the intelligence cycle? You know, if it says to me, the intelligence cycle is direction, collection, processing, analysis, dissemination, well done, it is, you know. Some of the things are really quite straightforward for it. Obviously, if you start pushing it and get advanced, and I don't have the paid version, by the way, I just have the free Chat GPT, the 3.5 model, I think it is. But in Notion, I've got the paid one. Notion has AI built into it. And it's really good. It gives you some really, really good content. But again, you still have to, there's no point generating stuff in Notion and then just publishing it as it is. That's a waste of everybody's time. I need to put my own flair to it, my own words, my own take, and my own conclusion, you know. These technologies, in my opinion, are just here to augment us and make it easier and faster, and, you know, so that you don't miss things or make obvious mistakes. And when I compare ChatGPT to Google, you know, a Google search, when you type the search query in, you then have to go and read all these pages. And maybe they're right, maybe they're wrong. It's hard to know. But if you ask ChatGPT, it'll just give you an answer what it thinks. And I think most of the time for me, that's more useful.
6th top video on your channel is 11 tips to pass your OSCP first time. And I mean, for everyone who's watching, go watch the video. But perhaps you can give us like your top 2 tips. I was quite surprised by the list that you gave because it wasn't what I would expect.
Okay. I think for me, the setting the time, the start time is really important. So I think I started mine at like 7 a.m. or something like that because I knew that...
UK time, right?
Well, local time. I was in Singapore at the
local time.
But
okay, sorry.
I started at 7 a.m. and then I knew that would give me a good run, you know, get up at 6, get ready, get breakfast, sit down, and then 7 all the way through to maybe 2 or 3 in the morning. And that's, you know, that's pushing 20 hours, right? So, and after 3 o'clock, I know from gaming and things like that, I start to get tired. But until 2 or 3 o'clock, I am pretty much on point the whole time. And that worked really well because I got to the end of that window and knew that I'd passed. I got enough points and I was like, right, we're done. And my wife and dog were sat in the living room in our apartment in Singapore waiting for me. So that was nice. So yes, pick the time of day. Some people are, you know, night owls, and you might want to, you know, start at 9 p.m. and then finish at, you know, dinner time the next evening. It's totally up to you, but really think about how you feel in your body. Maybe it's easier for gamers and people who watch a lot of like late night TV, or they might have a better feeling for what it's like to just sit sort of in the zone for a long period of time. It's really started at the right time. And I think the other one is, you know, get up and move around. Don't just sit there for the whole time period. If you can, stand up, move your body, do some yoga. I think in the video I do yoga in the garden outside, jump in a hot tub, whatever it is to like just take a break, detox, get the blood flowing again. those may be my big ones. And I guess the last tip would be the whole Gitbook thing. So I do have a video on Gitbook, and I think I shared one recently about hacktricks.xyz. Fantastic resource. Put all your commands in there and just copy paste. So easy. You still have to index it and know what you're looking for, but if you don't have it, you're kind of going in from memory, trying to remember all these commands and things, and that doesn't help, because you'll just spend a lot of time Googling commands when you should just be using the commands to get going.
So, Gary, you work for a big bank of unknown name, which we won't mention here. But I was watching a video just recently. I think it was the Wall Street Journal. We're talking about this guy who took people's iPhones and was able to empty their bank accounts out just because they were either intoxicated or whatever, and they gave him the phone and or the PIN, and then he could get access to the iPhone and just take all the money out.
Yeah.
You in threat intelligence, it's a worry, right? Our lives are on a phone. How can I better protect myself? What's your advice with all the threats that you're seeing? I don't want to get my bank accounts emptied out and stuff like that. What's your advice?
I would say make sure you've turned on that new thing that came out in iOS 17.3, which I think came out last night at the time of recording this, and I turned it on.
I did it, right?
I turned it on this morning. It's a very subtle thing. You just hit the button and that's it, done. So if people steal your device, your iPhone, they really can't. There's no benefit anymore, because it just won't work for them. Even if they have the passcode, it'll still do some Face ID stuff when they try to make those changes and like turn things off and change your Apple ID. It won't work, which is great. And I'm sure Android will, maybe they have something similar, or maybe they'll bring something out that's similar. So I think that's a big one for me.
Yeah, I mean, it's worrying because the iPhone security was awful, just from the point of view that a PIN, the thing is, we people who are aware of this stuff, it's obvious, right?
Yeah.
The problem is most people are not obvious. So, I mean, you must be dealing with the banks obviously have people from all walks of life, and a lot of them aren't technical. I mean, it's like, what other tips would you give someone? I mean, if they've got an iPhone, upgrade the iOS, etc. But like, what other tips have you got?
I mean, there's the obvious stuff like don't reuse passwords. That's super important. If you're using the same password on every website, that's actually hard to do these days, because, on your iPhone, Keychain is probably enabled, which is the password manager that's built into every Apple device, basically. So if you're typing the passwords in manually, that means you're overriding the suggestions that it's making for you that you could just click accept on. So do not reuse passwords. Make sure you're using Keychain, which is the iOS, and Mac password manager. But, Google has one. You can get independent ones like 1Password, Dashlane, and all that sort of stuff. Use a password manager, have multi-factor authentication where you can. It isn't a panacea anymore. It's not perfect anymore. You got Kuba's tool, the Evil Jinx tool, even Evil Genix tool, however you say it, which, acts as a proxy for those 6-digit codes. Don't think just because you have 2FA, it's, perfect. You can get FIDO2, which is, reverse proxy resistant 2FA. So the likes of the YubiKeys that plugs in. So if you need more security, go buy one of those YubiKey things for $50, whatever it is, and, stick that into your computer. And that is phish proof. I think Google reported they have 0 phishing now because they use those. And it's just, how many things do you get where it's 0? It's like when you use your mouthwash, it's 99.9% of bacteria. This is 100%. So yeah, a YubiKey really works, and hats off to them for inventing it. So yeah, don't reuse passwords, multi-factor authentication, update your stuff. Like when you get that little red dot that says, iOS is out of date, or your Windows computer's out of date, update it quickly. If you run a small business, do not be complacent. The amount of small and medium businesses that no one has ever heard of, Jack's Lumber Shop in Oregon.
Yep.
No one's ever heard of it, but it's on a ransomware site because it got hit with Lockbit because they didn't update for free their Active Directory. Just update, especially the internet-facing stuff. Don't get complacent with that. That really annoys me when I see that happen, because it's just so much of it is an easy fix. It's different if it's a 0 day. When Clop, the ransomware gang Clop, hit all those people with the managed file transfer vulnerabilities. That's different, right? That's 0 day territory.
Yeah.
No one can protect against that really, unless you got layered defenses that are going to catch it. But yeah, the easy, simple stuff, just get it done. But it's tough, security is hard, and security culture is I really struggle with it. I genuinely do. I'm torn. Part of me is like, we should educate everyone in the business and tell them to be able to spot phishing emails at 1,000 yards away. But at the same time, the other part of me is like, no, Gary, tools exist, companies exist out there so that if they click on something, it doesn't even matter. It's sandboxed. It's irrelevant. You can't get infected. So we don't need to educate them. And I'm really torn between these two. You and I don't need to know how a seatbelt is made, or like,
exactly.
We just plug it in and we know, right? We've been told that's the thing that's going to save you, and off you go. And that's it. Why do we have to educate people about security awareness in big businesses where it costs a lot of money to do so? If you're an Apple or Microsoft and you got 100,000 plus employees and you want everybody to sit down once a year and do the old compliance learning, this is what phishing looks like, click, click, click. That's time. Time is money. And it's a distraction from what they should actually be doing in their role. So I really struggle with that. But I do think the more you know, the better. So probably it's worth learning.
I just saw on Twitter the other day, and when I interviewed Martin from Cisco, he said he's also a cybersecurity expert, and two cybersecurity experts said that they got phished. And it's like, if the best of the best get phished, what is a normal person who's not technical, what chance do they have? What chance do they have if people like us get phished?
And, my iCloud mail, I'm an Apple user, so I get iCloud. My junk box is full of actual junk.
Exactly.
Which is good, right? That it ends up in there. I'd rather not receive it in the first place. But my inbox largely just is my inbox. So I can really pay attention to what's in there. The odd time I'll get like some sort of lucky jackpot thing pops into my inbox. I'm like, how did that get through Apple's filters? But it happens. Recently, I joined Hey.com from 37 Signals, the team behind Basecamp. If you haven't seen it, it's a really, really cool take on email. It's a complete re-engineer of like how you do email. Forget what Apple Mail looks like, Google Mail, Outlook. It does not look like that. It is beautiful. And no one can email you until you approve them. So kind of every sender is whitelisted, which that's what I'm looking for. I dream of a day, David, where employees join the company and they don't even get given a laptop unless they need a laptop. You don't have an email address because you don't need one. You don't need to send email. You're in the marketing team. You communicate via Slack. That's it. And guess what? You only get Slack. Until you can prove to me you need calculator.exe, you ain't getting it. Hardcore, some sort of Windows box that Microsoft sells that is like extremely locked down and everything has to be turned on manually. That attack surface would be tiny. Now, it's probably quite impractical from a... I
was going to say, the business people are not going to listen to you because at the end of the day, they want to make money, right? Sorry, go on.
Exactly. It would be quite costly from an identity and access management perspective. You'd have to have a lot of people flicking the switches. David has requested access to the webcam because he needs it to go on Zoom calls. Okay, tick, David gets the webcam. So it would be a very intense process from that side of things. You'd really need like unbelievably detailed job descriptions mapped to tools. But it's a cool idea. Like, I've never seen it done before. So I do wonder if there's something there.
I think it's the problem with that is that's cyber person's dream, but it's the business person's nightmare. And that's why cyber people struggle sometimes. Sorry, go on. I interrupted you.
No, you're absolutely right. It is a dream, but it's always that balance of service versus security. And obviously, if you work in a high security environment, that's more possible. It's more possible to be that, locked down. But if you're in a generic business environment, quite tough.
I was told I won't even mention the names because the less people know about me, the better. I was speaking to a UK bank and they said, oh, we have voice recognition now. You can like talk into your phone and be authenticated with your voice only.
Voice command. Voice command.
And then I listened to Rachel Toback doing something. And what's your opinion? Should I enable voice authentication? It sounds like a really bad idea.
Yeah, it's a tough one. So I'll give you a different story, but it'll probably give you an idea. I signed up to a bank. I don't think it exists anymore, but I won't say the name. It's got 4 letters in the name. And I downloaded the little app. It was just an app. There's no sort of website or shop front. It's a digital bank. And this is 2015, 2015, 2016, somewhere around that time. And we were messing around with it. And we got one of those little wooden coffee stirring sticks. And we had a photograph of me on my iPhone. We sent it to my friend. And we used that photograph, like in the Mission Impossible movies. We just held the photograph of me up to the facial recognition in the app. And it didn't accept it. So then we got the coffee stirrer and we put it over my eyes. And then we did this to make it look like I was blinking, like I was alive. And it worked. We emailed the company and said, hey, we figured this out. And we got the response back, which was, we take security very seriously, blah, 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 the end. So, should you turn on voice recognition? Maybe, but it really depends on your threat model. I do wonder if these companies that do things like, creating 11 Labs, as it is called, creating the AI voices, if they're going to have to add some sort of hidden track, a bit like when Shazam detects music, when you do the music detection and it tells you what the song is, it does that from the ID3 tag. It can hear something, I think, in the track. I wonder, are they going to put some sort of watermark onto AI-generated video and audio so we know it's generated by AI? But then you're always going to get a bad actor that makes their own AI that doesn't do it.
Exactly.
Yeah. So tough question. Really depends on your threat model. I think if you got lots of money to lose, maybe stick it in some old school physical bank account where you have to walk in like Jason Bourne and give them the number of the account and be escorted to the gold that sits in the vault. That's maybe the safest option.
Well, I mean, it's a great answer. It depends on the threat model, but it must be a worry. I mean, how you guys sleep at night knowing you've got all these people putting money into the bank and security isn't always the best. It's a worry.
Yeah. And a lot of the big issues we've seen recently in the threat landscape have been around things like CVEs, so exploits in VPN software. Yep. And VPNs is how everybody connects into work, right? If you log in from home, you connect via a VPN. That means that organization has a box somewhere called a VPN server and you connect into it. But it means it's internet facing. Anybody can see it. And if you just Google like Tesla VPN, you'll find like the login panel that employees use for Tesla. It's just there, right? And you can try and it'll say no. But one day, if you get the credentials, it'll say yes. And if there's a 0 day, if there's a vulnerability in the software, you don't even need the credentials. You can just get in. Now, you'll only get into the VPN box. Can you go any further? That's the next problem. And that's where it gets hard. But, you could encrypt all those with ransomware and then make a lot of money. It's terrifying. That internet-facing technology bit doesn't keep me up at night personally, but I know a lot of people that it does keep up at night, and rightly so, to be honest, because it's terrifying.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like the old days where it's, someone had to walk into a bank. I mean, someone can be on the other side of the world and break in.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a worry. And it's like you said about small businesses, right? The banks have money and resources, but most small, medium businesses and even people in their personal capacity, it's like, how do you afford to protect yourself? Yeah,
a friend of mine, his friend was doing a mortgage money transfer, and I think you know where this is going. The law firm that he was going through to send the money, through to the endpoint, they had their email server compromised by a hacker, and the hacker got in the middle and changed the bank details. So my friend's friend sent £200,000 to the hacker, and it went to the hacker. They never got the money back, but the bank refunded him fully, which I think is, I won't say who the bank. I won't say who the bank is, but if you're in the UK,
good of the bank,
if you're in the UK, you've definitely heard of the bank. But hats off to them for doing it, because that's a cost.
I mean, I'm surprised the law firm wasn't held liable for that.
Yeah, it's where do you stop the investigation? If you did dig into that and it turned out that there was a 0 day in the law firm's email server, and that's how the bad guys got in, do you then hold the people who made the software of the email server responsible because they supplied it? And it gets messy. That those demarcation points, it's tough.
I think the problem for a lot of us is I want to go live in a cave, right? I say this a lot because the more you see what's going on, the more you think it's insane.
Yes.
So what's your advice, to stay sane in this crazy world?
It's so tough. So like me personally, I took a little bit of a step back from LinkedIn over the last couple of months. I just, seen too much stuff, sad things, sad videos and things. And I just, I saw a lot of bad stuff in the Middle East as it was during my time in the military. And I don't know, I just wasn't enjoying being on the platform anymore. So I just sort of dialed back a bit my usage on it. And I think just learning to dial back when you feel it, I don't find myself getting burnt out doing this stuff at all. I find being in the social media game quite fun and refreshing. It's actually energizing more than anything. But yeah, I think using things like screen time, if you are getting burnt out, doom scrolling on Instagram, or reading the news about cyber attacks all the time, or being on Twitter chatting with people all the time, just learning how to curb at the source. Screen time locks it at 7 p.m. and you're not allowed to use it. I know you can bypass it, but that's where discipline comes in.
I like that. Discipline it's a great way to end off this interview, because discipline equals freedom. Yeah. And that's how you got your OSCP, right? It wasn't just it didn't just happen. You had to put the work in.
Yeah. From what I would call a cold start as well. There's a lot of kids, in fact, my neighbor of mine, his son just finished a degree in, ethical hacking and networking. And it's like, that's cool. You're set up now to go, and, he knows what the OSCP is, and he's done sort of half the work already because, he's got that degree. I came from sort of a cold start, and I got there. So if I can do it, anybody watching, you can do it. You just need to apply yourself and stick at it. Don't quit. I've done things in the past and I've give up because I felt like it wasn't getting traction. Looking back on it, I think some of those things wouldn't have gotten traction just because they were a bit ill-conceived. So I'm kind of glad that I did quit. And that's where you have to sort of calculate it in your mind. But you take YouTube, for example, and LinkedIn, like, it's a grind, right? It took me 2 years to get to 10,000 subs on YouTube. And then it took another month to get to 20. Yeah. So don't quit. Let the other people quit. And then you'll be the last one standing in whatever walk of life that it is. Just be the last man standing or the last woman standing, or sitting. If you can just sit, it's fine. Yeah, don't quit, be disciplined, apply yourself, and try to pace yourself as best you can. And look after your body as well. Like, that's something I'm really focusing on in 2024. Yeah. We've got a big exercise gym thing arriving at the end of February for my home gym. I spend a lot of time at a standing desk. I'm sat now, but I do stay mobile throughout the day, up and down the stairs, see the kids, make cups of tea, but do look after your body because you only get one of them, and healthy body, healthy mind, all that stuff.
Gary, that's brilliant. Thanks so much for sharing.
Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to, David. I really appreciate it.